working again. All right, new start. Hopefully this has got sound going because it's showing me it's got sound. So it should be sending the sound. Please let me know. I will start the song again. It's called All the Things. Here we go. Great, now there's sound. Kathy, will you let me know if it's actually coming out to you or are you saying it's not coming out? Oh, ever since I was a kid, everyone picked on me. Growing up was the hardest thing for a boy with no self-esteem. So I found a little place in the backyard of my mind. Disappeared without a trace. Didn't want them to find me. For every year that passed me by, there was less of me to recognize. I wish I made more room to grow. Instead I hid, what did I know? All the things people say, all the things that people do, bring you down when you let it get to you. All the things you don't know, all the things that make you fall, won't matter when you rise above it all. Oh, now that I've become a man, you were there to walk me through, facing each memory of those who harmed me. Now that I'm trusting you, I'm exploring everything. Emotions that may drown me like a river pouring out. For every year that passed me by, there was less of me to recognize. I wish I made more room to grow. Instead I hid, what did I know? All the things people say, all the things that people do, bring you down when you let it get to you. All the things you don't know, all the things that make you fall, won't matter when you rise above it all. This is the spot in the song I was trying to discuss before when there was no sound. I'll mention something about it that happened on an LA radio station after this is done. Finished with the words that hurt. Finished feeling like dirt. Now you sin, living regret. It's best to forget all the things that people say and all the things that people do will bring you down when you let it get to you. And all the things that you don't know and all the things that make you fall, they won't matter when you rise above it all. All the things that people say, all the things that people do, bring you down when you let it get to you. And all the things that you don't know, and all the things that make you fall, all the things. All right, so there's a whole long intro to all of that that didn't exist because there was no sound. That's unfortunate. I'm so very sorry. because the meter on the software was saying, yes, there is sound going out to the world, but apparently it was not. And that is now fixed. So, yippee. Anyway, that middle section. So that's normally a solo section in the song, and on an LA radio station when it was premiered and they were interviewing me and doing all kinds of things, they got done with playing that, and I believe it was Frosty, although I'm not sure, who had mentioned something about the guitar solo being extremely cool because it was a backwards guitar solo that was recorded backwards and then of course played forward, which is something they used to do in the days of tape. That wasn't recorded in tape, I did it digitally, and it still came out really cool. Anyway, the humor of that is that after he said it, he said that I did it, he said that it was done cooler than the Beatles. And why is that cutting out? That's nasty. All right, so it's cutting out. But he said, and maybe it's cutting out on purpose, because I'm trying to say something that somebody else said, and it's derogatory. Well, it's not derogatory. It's just a very high compliment, I think, because when Frosty had said this, he had mentioned that the Beatles used to do things like this, and that I had done it and done it cooler. And I immediately said, I didn't say that, and that I thought it was a very nice compliment, but I didn't want anybody to associate that with me saying that or me thinking it. It was Frosty from Frosty, Heidi, and Frank. So, that being said, I'm going to move on because I'm running shorter on time due to the fact that I had no sound and had to restart. This next song is a cover song because I'd like to sandwich the covers right in the middle of everything that's going on. And it is done by a band local to Utah called The Crew. And that is spelled K-R-E-W, not C-R-E-W or C-R something. Anyway, The Crew is the name of the band. The name of the song that I'm about to do is called What Are You Waiting For? And part of this is being done because of another local Utah artist by the name of Doug Lane, who has asked a bunch of local artists to cover other local artists. So rather than doing a famous cover, I'm going to do a cover that you probably have never heard unless you are local to Utah or you watch Fox Sports, because apparently this was once used on a Fox Sports program. And if you can have such a good memory that you'd hear that, you might remember this. It's called What Are You Waiting For? And to my knowledge, it goes like this. See, you waited your whole life. Let's see the ever ride your desires. Keep on wishing for some days on the back burner with no fire. When will it ever range? This is where you know it will begin. What are you waiting for? Right there, right in front of you. What are you waiting for? What are you gonna do? Say you waited your whole life, never know which road to take. Standing at the crossroads, take the path leading out of here. When will it ever change? This is where you know it will begin. What are you waiting for? It's right there, right in front of you. What are you waiting for? What are you gonna do? This is where they have a nice rockin' guitar solo. If I had two more arms, I could do it. Or if I had Terrence Hanson's double neck guitar, I might be able to do it. What are you waiting for? It's right there. here's the ending. Now there's a riff in this that I haven't been playing, so I'm going to do it now to end the song. What are you waiting for? Originally written by The Crew. Find it on your digital streaming stations anywhere you want. I believe he's got it just about everywhere. I could be wrong. Anyway, we've got one more song that I will be doing in a moment as soon as I get something. By the way, I know this is for geeky guitar nerds out there, but this is an ART G7th capo. These are like the coolest capos ever. They're nice and heavy. And the ART stands for Automatic Radiusing Technology, which is pretty cool because what it means is that the rubber that is inside the capo automatically shapes itself to the radius of the neck, which is not something you get in most capos. And that's a lovely thing. So this next song that I'm about to do was written for another musician friend of mine, and a tall female friend of mine with rocket red hair, hailing from the land of the Netherlands. And howdy out there, Alexa 12, nice to see you. And for everybody on Facebook, thank you for tuning in and watching. Hi, Chandra. Hey, Terrence. Oh, you were jamming along. You were playing the solo. You should have recorded it and set it up on the stream. Anyway, getting back to this song. It's called Thump, Thump, Thump. And I wrote it for a very tall, red-headed female musician by the name of Femke. She hails from the Netherlands, and we had a short stint of doing some songwriting together, worked on some boy band stuff that didn't actually end up flying out anywhere into the universe, unfortunately. But we had a good time hanging out while we did, and this is called Thump, Thump, Thump. And essentially, it goes a bit like this. Actually, it doesn't go a bit like this. Yeah, it actually does go a bit like this because this is an acoustic version compared to the high production value of the recorded version, which you can find on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, YouTube, your favorite streaming source, provided it's hopefully not there on like BitTorrent or something. Anyway. Thump Thump. Available on all your favorite streaming services. Now, I'm being notified that some people can't actually see this, which is unfortunate. I don't actually know how to make it available for all kinds of people. I'll have to figure that out at some point. Anyway, that concludes the songwriting, or not the songwriting, but the song portion of everything. And essentially, I will now try to riff for about 5 minutes, unless you get bored and you say, fuck this guy, I can't listen to him anymore. Hopefully that's not actually the case. Essentially, that song, like I said, was written for another artist, and then she didn't actually do it, so I ended up doing it for myself and tooling the words a little bit more so that it was more directed towards somebody of the opposite sex, because I am into that kind of thing, not necessarily into the same sex. Not if any, that's perfectly fine if you are. I am just not one of them. One of those kinds of people. It's not me. Anyway, now I feel like I've just stuck my foot in my mouth, which was really dumb. Yes. Anyway, on next week's show, I will try to do yet another local artist for a cover song. I'm thinking I'm going to go for Doug Lane, since he's the one that kind of challenged me to do a local artist cover song from a Utah artist. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to do a Doug Lane song for next week. I think that's appropriate. And then I will pick 2 more of my songs, unless I get a request from somebody in the middle of the week saying, hey man, I really dug that particular song and I like the way it goes when it's on the streaming services, but I'd rather hear you play it live yet again. So again, Tuesday at 6:30 of next week will be the next episode of 2 songs and a cover with Jody Whitesides. And hopefully there'll be some kind of super happy news, and we won't be talking so much about COVID-19, which reminds me, going back to the beginning right now, for when the first version of this kicked off, and then there was about 4 or 5 minutes where people were like, dude, there's no sound. I was talking about the fact that the very first song that I sang and wrote, or co-wrote with a guy by the name of Greg Watton, was a song that was supposed to be uplifting and positive and to get people up out of the doldrums of the whole thing. And one other thing that was mentioned on the radio in LA when I was being interviewed happened to be from a caller who had called in. And he called into the radio show and he was telling the hosts, Frosty, Heidi, and Frank, and telling them that he was having a really crappy day until that song came on. And then he had to pull off the side of the freeway, call into the radio station to tell them, to tell me, of course I was on the phone at the time, that that song, All the Things, had turned his entire day around and he was no longer having a crappy day. Now, if that isn't like a vote of like a massive confidence of like saying, hey, that is a really great song for lifting up someone's spirits, I don't know what is, because I think that's pretty damn cool. So, the second song was the cover from a band called The Crew. It was called What Are You Waiting For? And the third song was one of my original songs that I had written for somebody else and ended up doing it for myself, and it's called Thump, Thump, Thump. All of these songs are available on your favorite streaming service, whatever it is. Hopefully it's one that pays the songwriters some royalties and the artists some royalties and all of that kind of good stuff. And now I'm preaching, so I'm going to stop. If I had a word from our sponsors, which we don't have any, you'd be hearing them now. I'm going to sign off and say thank you for watching and see you next week.